You know, I can't believe I'm about to say this about the final movie in a trilogy so comprehensively forgettable that I had to look up the plot summaries for the previous two just to remind myself of what even happened in them, but Venom 3: The Last Dance was surprisingly fun.
Oh man. Oh god, oh man.
That's not to say that it's a good movie by any stretch of the imagination. God no. The plot's a bunch of contrived, tonally inconsistent nonsense that relies on the most insane coincidences just to keep moving, and can't seem to decide if it's a serious race against time to save the universe, or a goofy, low-level road trip movie. Characters routinely forget that the fate of the world rests on their decisions so that they can have a night of musical fun in Vegas, and the script suffers from a bloated cast that often doesn't have any good reason to be there, and wastes some extremely talented actors in the process. All that being said though, Venom 3 somehow manages to be surprisingly funny and enjoyable at times, and provides a fairly heartfelt finale in a way that none of its predecessors ever could. It was nearly 2 hours long, but moved at a brisk pace and never really outstayed its welcome, and it did something that I never imagined was possible at this point. It actually got me just a little bit invested in Eddie Brock and the alien monster that lives inside him. Anyway, let us begin our plot summary, shall we? So the movie picks up in a bar in Mexico by immediately cancelling out the ending of the previous film, with Venom declaring that he's done with all that multiverse bullshit. Okay, good start, let's see where it goes. Unfortunately, bad news is on the way. Eddie's now being blamed for the death of Detective Mulligan in the last film, and knows it's only a matter of time before the law catches up with him.
You serious?
I'm not sure how exactly. I mean, Jesus, do you really think the US government is gonna launch an international manhunt just to track down one cop killer? Anyway, whatever. Eddie has a buddy in New York City that he reckons can help clear his name, and so he and Venom head there by hitching a ride on the outside of a commercial airliner.
Really?
Sure, whatever, just go with it. But then they come under attack by an alien monster thing and barely escape with their lives. Then Venom explains that it's a symbiote hunter sent by an evil guy named Null, who's basically Venom's version of Thanos. Null was imprisoned when the rest of the symbiotes rebelled against him, and to escape, he needs a magical bullshit device called a codex that gets formed when a symbiote brings a host back to life. Since Venom did it to Eddie in like the first movie, they carry a codex inside them, and if Venom transforms into his full form now, it'll alert Null to his location. He can still transform a little bit, but not fully, and the only way to get rid of the codex is for one of them to die.
Not a great plan.
Meanwhile, Strickland and the rest of the military are busy studying a bunch of captured symbiotes to learn more about them, including one that's taken over Mulligan's body. Oh yeah, Mulligan's alive again, I guess. And oh shit, is that Keeley from Ted Lasso?
No.
Damn man, that's like seeing Dawn from The Office in Wonder Woman. So after Mulligan explains the danger of the Codex, Strickland and Keeley from Ted Lasso head out to capture Eddie and Venom before Null can get his hands on them. But will they get there in time? And even if they do, will this be the last dance for our dynamic duo? I said before that one of the major issues with Venom 3 is its complete lack of tonal consistency, and it's a problem that really kicks in during the second act of the film. Like, at times the script wants you to take the looming threat of Null, the destruction of all life on Earth, and the potential death of Venom very seriously, but then at other times it wants you to forget all that so that Venom can have a goofy dance number with Mrs. Chen in Vegas, or a nice sing-along with a family of hippies on their way to Area 51. And the problem is, those two concepts work about as well together as Kamala Harris and unscripted interviews. At a certain point, you kind of have to pick one path and stick with it, but Venom wants to have its cake and eats it, and the result is the kind of tonal whiplash that makes your fucking neck hurt. There's also a big problem with cast bloat. Keeley from Ted Lasso is mostly fine, even if she's a bit underdeveloped, but she's undercut by a second scientist who's functionally identical and ends up doing half of her narrative work for her. The decision to bring Mulligan back to life was another weird choice because he barely gets to do anything except stand around in a room looking sad, and it just feels like a real waste of a talented actor. Speaking of wasting talented actors, Rhys Ifans has been absolutely killing it as Otto Hightower in House of the Dragon, delivering a complex, nuanced and gripping performance as a cunning and patient political shark, slowly undone by the egos and rash decisions of those around him. Luckily though, there's absolutely none of that on display here, where instead he plays a flaky, stereotypical hippie UFO enthusiast who's willing to put his entire family in danger just to sneak around Area 51. It's weird and kind of pointless and eats up a lot of screen time that could have been better used on Keeley from Ted Lasso. Or better yet, fleshing out Null, who's barely even in the movie, gets only a handful of lines and never interacts directly with any of the other characters. I mean, it's a bit late in the game to be teasing a new big bad for future movies, don't you think? This isn't 2010 and you're not the MCU. So after talking all that shit about it, you might be wondering why exactly I enjoyed Venom 3. Well, despite all the tonal inconsistencies, the chemistry between Eddie and Venom is still by far the best aspect of this trilogy. There's plenty of fun banter between them, they feel very much like good friends at this point, and Tom Hardy slips back into the role like a comfortable old pair of slippers. The third act also delivers some pretty decent action scenes with a small army of symbiotes taking on a whole bunch of evil alien things, with human soldiers caught up in the middle and a whole bunch of explosions in between. And like I said earlier, the finale actually felt like it had a bit of heart put into it. It's not going to win any Oscars and it doesn't measure up to the emotional high points of the MCU, but it did at least feel like the people involved actually cared about what they're making and did their best to deliver an emotionally satisfying conclusion. I've always seen the Venomverse as this weird and slightly pointless little offshoot, stranded outside the MCU by a complex web of rights issues and IP restrictions that existed purely because Sony happened to have a handful of characters they wanted to exploit. And to be honest, the first two Venom movies did nothing to change that opinion. They were so thoroughly forgettable that I had to keep reminding myself that I'd even seen them. But The Last Dance did, if nothing else, provide a fairly satisfying swan song to Eddie Brock's story. And if you're stuck for something to watch this October but you're not into horror movies, then well, I don't think your time would be entirely wasted on One Last Dance. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.